welcome to our bonus session, which is on pitch deck and demo building. I'm going to be honest with you, the demo part of this is definitely the least prominent part, mainly because I think the pitch deck is where most of your teams have been working on, and the demo, depending on the size, can be so varied. So I will go through the guidelines towards the end of the call on that, just as a reminder, but a lot of this call is going to be on the pitch deck. I'm going to introduce you guys to Denise, who is founder of SaaSLaunch.io. She has helped many companies across the world help get funding, whether it's their first check or through to, I think it's seed and Series A investments. So yeah, I'm actually not going to take yours. You do your introduction, Denise. I'm going to mute myself and enjoy.
Thank you guys. So what I'll do is let me share my screen for a second, and then we can get into this. Okay, can everybody see my screen, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, all good. Okay, guys, so as Tarsha mentioned, my name is Denise Edwards, founder of SaaS Launch. I'll give a little bit of an intro in a little bit, but today actually what I want to go over is the pitch deck and pitching. And the things that I would like to actually, provide you guys is just some tips that could potentially move the needle for you when it comes to your pitch deck and pitching. Feel free to ask me any questions you have, and we can also do that in the Q&A. So I'll first go into the pitch deck and the outline and risk evaluation, then go into pitching. And if anybody wants to, I'd like to do kind of like a live pitch deck session, maybe just 5 to 10 minutes. Any volunteers are welcome. So I'll ask that at the end, and then we can have obviously the Q&A. Awesome. Okay, so I am going to give you a little bit of an introduction about myself. So my name is Denise Edwards. As I mentioned, founder and CEO of SaaS Launch. My background actually has been in technology sales. So I have been working for companies such as Oracle, LinkedIn, smaller startups and scale-ups, basically in different parts of the world, like Ireland, the Benelux, and Spain, for example. And I actually started in SaaS Launch in 2018, back when I was still working at Oracle. And we're based in the Netherlands, by the way, in Amsterdam. And we actually started as a sales and marketing company. So because of the background that I had, I could, help these SaaS founders with their sales and marketing side of things. And then slowly but surely, one of our clients asked us to help them with the fundraising. And this came at a time that was very interesting because the prior company that I worked for after Oracle and before I went full-time into the company, they were actually raising funds. And I saw the full process from close up. And we also had a little bit of a network, and that's how I actually helped them raise a multi-7-figure deal, which is amazing. And then next of the clients that we have also started suit. They asked us as well to start the fundraising with them next to their marketing and sales. And actually now we're actually in a full fundraising consultancy firm. And our stages are usually between pre-seed to Series A, although we're seeing that more seed type of companies are asking for a service. And our clients could range anywhere between namers, so North America, and EMEA. But we also have companies in Latin, so Latin America, and on the African continent as well. So a few of the clients that we've closed deals with is Signy Deal, Life Wizards App, Bramble. And again, our service is really focused on not only looking at your pitch deck, but really understanding your value proposition and how do you actually communicate that value proposition in a way that's really attractive to investors, because it's obviously very different if you are selling your solution to customers than it is to investors. It's just a different mindset. And many of the founders that we work with have a technical background, a developer background. They love to make the solution better and sell it with all the bells and whistles, but it's really a different way of selling the added value, and that's where we help with. And then also looking at the pitch deck, and then we actually go to market with them and connect them to investors. So that's basically what we do in a nutshell. Now, we're going to go into the pitch deck. I'd like to actually ask the room if anybody would like to. When it comes to the pitch deck, how did you know how to kind of like structure the pitch deck? Where did you get your information from to make your pitch deck? Hannes, I see your mic is off.
Yeah, I can jump in. We were in another accelerator last year, and we got some guidance from there. That was like a presentation and templates and examples. So that's where we started, and then like we've made so many pitch decks for so many various reasons. So it's always iterating and improving.
Amazing, amazing, good, good. Anybody else?
Trial and error for me.
Okay.
Just mostly try, see what people respond to, iterate, see what they respond to again, and iterate. You know, essentially. One thing that has worked for me in the past is I pitch it by mouth first to a bunch of people, see what people respond to in conversation, and then put that in a pitch deck.
Okay, nice, nice. And with regards to the structure, did you know beforehand what the structure was, or was that also like?
I still honestly, I still don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what the structure is like. You hear so much advice. At this point, I just ignore everything because like you hear so much advice about what the structure should be, and it's just like it's never useful because every single investor tells you something different. So I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what to believe anymore.
That's a good point, by the way. So yeah, it's there's a lot of information out there. There's usually like a certain structure, which I'm going to go into in a little bit. But yes, it's sometimes trial and error, and sometimes you just have to find it yourself. So basically what it actually is with the importance of a pitch deck is actually, I always say it's kind of like a sales letter or a newspaper a little bit, right? So you really want to showcase like your solution and what the added value is of the solution, not only for obviously these investors, but for, you know, your target audience. So really, really weave into that your story, right? Like a little bit of the hero's journey. So for example, we have one company, they do event management solutions. And they actually stumbled upon their solution that they have now by accident, because before there's two founders, they're actually Finnish. And these two founders founded a different company. It was kind of like a database, online database type of solution. And what they were seeing is that their customers at that time with that solution were using the solution at events. And they were actually adding the contacts of all the, let's say, people that were at the events that came to their booth. They added that into that software, into the database software, and then actually wanted to send that to their CRMs. And that's actually how, by accident, the founders came about to see like, hey, this is how, you know, these customers are using this. So now they developed the software just completely from that perspective. And now are selling the solution, and it's actually going like hotcakes. So that's also a very interesting story to tell, right? Not a lot of people could be telling this story that, hey, our solution just came about by accident, and really weaving your story around that. So think about how you could actually, you know, sell and tell your story as well in a way that's very captivating to the audience. And maybe there's a few things in there, you know, that sometimes we as founders think, oh yeah, well, this is actually normal, but actually it's not. So think of those types of examples where you can actually add value into that story, right? And when it comes to kind of like your pitch deck, obviously you're going to be sending this to investors, or it could sometimes even be partnerships, right? Maybe you want to have strategic partnerships. Some of our clients have strategic partnerships. We have one client, for example, they're in Sweden. They have a innovation management platform, and they have partnerships with Microsoft and Gartner, right? So those are also interesting things where you can actually use your pitch deck for to go out and find strategic partnerships. But when it comes to kind of like the pitch deck, it's also important to think about like, how do you stand out from your competition, or how do you stand out from the crowd, right? Because if you look at how many pitch decks angel investors receive, or mid-level VCs receive, or high-level VCs receive, such as Sequoia, for example, you know, angels can get up to 2K pitch decks on a yearly basis, right? mid-level VCs up to 5K, or high-level VCs up to 10K on a yearly basis. So how do you make sure that the first, let's say, if they look at the pitch deck, the first few seconds, it's already captivating, right? Is the design up to par? Is the problem statement and solution statement to the point? Is there the text, are those short, not too much text? Make it more visual, right? Those are some aspects that could work to make sure that, you know, your pitch deck could stand out, above the rest. So take into account, these are the aspects that, you know, you have to deal with when you go out searching for investors, to make sure that, you know, you're the one that they really want to move forward with. And then again, the pitch deck is just a sales pitch online, where the next step actually is to, you know, get a meeting with the investor. That's basically the next step that you need to think about. So every step in the process, whether it's your pitch deck and then going into your first meeting with an investor, and then your second meeting with the investor, you're consistently selling the next step in the process. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, perfect. Cool. Now, when we look at the outline of a pitch deck, and I think that probably 80 to 90% of us here know kind of like what the structure is. But I'm just gonna give you a little bit about a structure about how we basically do it. I'm not gonna go into every aspect, but just give you a little bit of a walkthrough, right? So when it comes to the pitch decks that we basically revamp, we always start with kind of like an introduction or a summary. This is basically to kind of like intro the reader into, okay, what is it actually that this company does, or what is it that makes them super different? We've had a pitch deck where we did a small summary with it's a SaaS company with regards to marketing solutions. And we made a little bit of an introing that they've won certain awards, and this is where, you know, they basically excel in. So that's kind of like an introduction that you can think of. What are the aspects that maybe you've won an award, or the company has won an award, or you just had a new partnership with maybe a big company. We have an AI company that we're working with in the US that is partnered with Bain & Co, ActiveOps, so those types of companies, right? So give it a little bit of a, you know, marketing touch in the intros. Then you go into the problem statement. So just one sentence, hey, what is it, the problem that's actually happening currently? That AI company that I was just mentioning, they do chat GPT mandates for CIOs. So their problem statement is basically CIOs are now getting chat GPT mandates, but they don't know how to actually implement that. So that's just a very simple problem statement that you can actually put on a slide, right? Solution statement, the same. How are they actually fixing the problem, just in one sentence, right? With their solution, of course. And then basically you have a slide on how it works. Sometimes you can have just a few screenshots of how the solution works. And it really depends, again, how can you use, or how can you show your solution in the best way to the investor in how the process works. And just always keep it simple. The easiest thing is to keep it simple and not overcomplicate things in a pitch deck. Now you can go obviously into your market, TAM, SAM, SUM, as we all know. Sometimes we have a slide in there, which is the why now slide, and sometimes we put the why now slide at the end, so after the ask. The why now slide could be relevant for any types of aspects that are, you know, currently in the market. So why is now the time that investors need to invest in X solution, if that makes any sense? So you don't have to put that in there. It's just an extra added bonus if there is something that you want to show why it's important to act now, if that makes any sense. So then you have traction.
Denise, we got a great question from Olabode here, which is about what happens if you're still building the solution. How does that impact what you've just said there?
With which part exactly? With the whole...
Yeah, would you like to come off mute and ask the question? Yeah, I can see him on camera there.
Much.
Oliver, did you want to come and ask a question specifically about if you're still building the product?
Oh, I was actually just staring blankly at the screen. I didn't realize you were talking to me. Sorry about that. I'm having a bit of an audio issue where my phone keeps interjecting. So give me 10 seconds. I need to turn Bluetooth off on my phone. All right, cool. So the reason why I asked, the question I asked is, what if you're still building the product? So I have gotten this feedback before, where it's like, hey, put screenshots of the product in the deck. But I'm currently at a stage in the company where I'm running everything in parallel. We're doing a bunch of building. We're still doing design. We have like Figma and designs and all that stuff. Not where we need it to be yet, but like, fairly solid. So in such a situation, how do you sort of show a solution when you're still building?
So the question is like, what do you actually show now currently with regards to kind of like where you're at with building the solution, right? Then the question is, are you already raising, or are you going to raise, let's say, a little bit more in the future?
Already raising. As a matter of fact, we should be getting our first check sometime this week or next. But that's a very tiny check though from a previous investor in my company. So it's like that's somebody I have an established relationship with. He doesn't need to see a deck.
Yeah, exactly. That's usually what happens. Yeah.
Right. So now I have to like talk to people who need to see a deck. I'm like, who are you and why do you think you can do all these nice things? So it's like, what do you sort of put in there if you're still building the solution and stuff?
Yeah. When do you feel like, so which part of, let's say, finalizing are you at? Are you at 70%, 80%, or are you at 50%? Where's that in the?
We are at like 2%, like I said. So we just opened up fundraising like 2 weeks ago, and I've already gotten like a ton of feedback on like, hey, this needs to change, and that needs to change, and that needs to change.
Yeah.
Essentially. So I did get a bunch of feedback from somebody who wants to introduce us to about 10 people in his network as well. So, but we're at the early stages of fundraising, like dead early stages. Like that the check I'm expecting is probably the first 2% of like the 500K round.
Got it. So you're like really pre-seed, right? You don't have the solution is not developed completely yet. You're just still in the building phase.
No, we're still in the building phase.
Yeah, okay, got it. So in that case, what you could do is, if you understand what like the kind of like the end product or semi-end product is going to be, then really tell the story of where you guys are at and where you guys want to go, right? So if you have some screenshots or maybe kind of like an ideal picture of what you can visualize in the pitch deck with the end result and where you guys are at, and then tell the story around that, that would be something that could work for you guys. Because again, you guys are maybe at what you mentioned, 2%, right? You still have to complete like the whole process. But the focus for pre-seed is you don't have a solution yet. So then really focus on, the ideation, what's kind of like the added value that this solution is going to bring, because you need to actually sell that you're going to build. Are you going to actually use that money to build the solution further?
To be honest, we don't need the money to build the solution. We kind of picked something that we knew we could build even if we didn't raise a cent. That's not the thing. So the one of the major reasons why we want to build is, number one, to fast track and get to market quickly and be able to iterate. And because we're not fundraising, we're basically bootstrapping, which means I am my co-founder. Like I have to do other things to earn money and keep plowing that money back into it. So you kind of want to stop doing that and 100% focus on this. So that's kind of why we're raising. But in terms of like being able to get the product to market, we don't even need to raise to do that.
Got it.
I'm technical. My co-founder is technical. I can sell. We know what we need to build. It's more about just like the other nuts and bolts essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So in that case, really, sell the story. What's kind of like the end result that you're going to go for, right? Because again, you're in the beginning phases. If you have maybe kind of like screenshots or anything that you can show what the product will look like in the future, that will also help. But I think in your case, you really need to sell the story and understand, okay, what's the added value, what you're going to provide to, let's say, your target audience, and how could investors find this interesting. Does that make sense?
Yes, but if I may ask a follow-up, how do you do that in 10 slides?
In 10 slides. Yeah.
That's always the
you can do it in one slide, right? So you can do kind of like
I heard that there's that dark magic where you could do it in one slide, but like I can't seem to tap into those powers. No.
Yeah, no.
Like, you always have to prioritize what do you put on the slide. You could put 10 things. How do you sort of pick the thing that goes on the slide, right?
Exactly. The thing is for you, because what we usually do is really go in depth into the solution, and then we can tell you like, listen, for this slide, for let's say the slide where you are going to put what the solution looks like, we can use this. But in this case, I don't have a lot of information to go with. So what we usually do as an example of what we did before is we had screenshots of, for example, we had a client, she just raised a few months ago, we raised 250K for her, just in a small angel round. Also pre-seed, she didn't develop the app at all. But what she showed is like screenshots of what the app would look like. So really screenshots of that. And then also, and that's just one slide, right? And then she would tell the story around that, around those screenshots. So like, this is what it's going to look like. This is how it's going to work. And that's the story that she made around that, let's say, slide. So you can do it in one slide, but it really depends. I don't have information to help you with this, but basically you can do it in one slide. Just show what the end result is going to look like and basically weave the story around that, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Any other questions before I... Okay, so yes, okay, so then we're going to go into the traction slide. I think everybody knows what a traction slide is. Sometimes when if you're in, let's say, a pre-seed type of situation, then obviously it's going to be a little bit difficult to actually talk about traction, but you could also talk about, hey, what have you gained up until now? Or you can actually leave the traction slide out. That's also very simple to do if you're in that stage, right? But traction would really be of added value if you can really showcase what you've achieved up until now. So if it's an app, how many subscribers, if it's a SaaS solution, if you have revenue, maybe something around, churn rates, things like that. So those types of aspects you can add into there. Marketing and sales, how do you actually acquire customers? What's the strategy there? Competition, team slide. Team slide is something that's very interesting because usually the pitch decks that we see, they have the team slide there, but then they have kind of like a LinkedIn profile, and then they just put the link in there. So what we usually do is we hyperlink the name with the LinkedIn profile, and then once investors go to the team, they can actually click on the name, and then it basically connects them to their LinkedIn profile immediately. So maybe something very trivial, but it's very interesting, a tip to add in there. Financials, usually 3 to 5 year plan, right? And then the ask is around the amount that you're asking for and for what you're going to use it, right? So think of the pitch deck as well in how are investors going to evaluate in this case, your solution, right? They evaluate it under 3 aspects. So market, product, and execution risk. So the market is like, is there a big enough market where the investor thinks, okay, this is interesting to, move forward with, right? That's where Tam Sam Sum comes in again. The product risk is, okay, how are you different than your competition? What are the differentiation factors that you have? And then execution risk is, who's the team and can the team basically pull off what you're trying to do, right? We have one client, they're based out of the US. They do causal AI, so basically really looking at the causes and then what the trends are going to be with AI, right? They have companies such as Shell that are working with them, and they also have, I believe, John Deere, for example, is also one of the companies that they work with. And they basically have a team of founders. So the founder, one of the co-founder, has had, I think, 3 startups before that he has sold to bigger companies, right? So he has exited that, he has raised funds before. So that's actually a good way of highlighting why he and his co-founder would be the one that could actually move this, this company forward and get the funding that they need, right? So if you have those types of, if you have that background, or if you can think of anything that could set you apart from, let's say, your competition, then they definitely add that into the pitch deck. Okay,
Can
so
I ask a question about traction?
yeah, of course.
Okay. So we are in this very interesting position where somebody paid us $20,000 to do something with technology that we developed. So we put out an open source project. It was like an AI open source project that does like some basic RAG stuff and everything. And someone paid us about $20,000 to sort of help them do something for the oil and gas industry. Now, that's not product revenue. That's just like because like we still had to do some extra work. But in our case, we just said, oh, money, we'll take it. Now we're in a position where the designer on my team is saying, hey, let's put that in the traction slide. And I'm like, it's not traction. I don't think it's traction. She thinks it's traction, and we're sort of at loggerheads right now. So maybe you can be our tiebreaker. Is that traction or is that not traction?
It's a one-off project. That's what you mentioned, right? But it's not.
Yeah, but so far it's not been one-off because like, the person's also trying to sort of build something in the oil and gas space, and they're basically using our tech to do it. Now our, tech and product, two different things. We're sort of going in a different product direction, but he's sort of using some of the fundamental tech that we built in our open source stuff to do his thing, right? Essentially. So it's, he's still paying us. It's like, hey, there's new scope added, he pays us. There's new scope added, he pays us, right? Essentially. But it's not like it's not repeatable revenue where like, for instance, with like a software business where your cost of goods sold is essentially zero because the thing sells itself. We're still building out the thing that's supposed to sell itself, right? So there's that confusion there where it's like, okay, where do we bucket that into?
Yeah, so just for me to understand correctly, they're using a part of, let's say, the solution that you're now building, right? Just certain parts of that.
Yes.
But it's kind of like him also testing it out a little bit, and then probably you guys are going to get some feedback into how to improve it. Should I see it like that?
Yes, lots and lots of feedback. Yes.
Okay,
a lot of the learnings that we sort of got in there has been useful to sort of build the core product, essentially.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so that's going to be a little bit different, with traction, because again, it's maybe one customer. I mean, you can highlight that, but it's not going to be complete traction, if that makes any sense. So you can highlight it in the sense of, hey, if it's, again, your pre-seed, we have one customer that's, using this and this and that. But I don't think it's going to be super relevant because, again, you guys are pre-seed. You have one customer, but it's not really kind of a customer. You guys are still going to probably go into like the beta testing and everything. So I wouldn't add that in there because it's only going to raise more questions. And you guys are, again, still in the, trying to find product market fit stage, trying to, improve your solution. So I wouldn't add that personally into the deck. Not at this stage. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions before I move on? Nothing? Okay, perfect. So this is one of the last slides that I have. I'd like to just go into the pitch. So why am I adding this here is because once you have your value proposition, you have your pitch deck, the next step is obviously going out to investors, right? So this could be in your network, this could be online, depending on, again, where you feel comfortable with. And you obviously need to pitch yourself, right? As a founder, but then also as the company. So think of it as obviously everybody has heard of elevator pitches, which basically is a 1 minute 1 minute pitch. But think of the pitch always as, how do you showcase the value of who you are, what you're doing, and why it matters, right? And this, you have, again, different frameworks, which I'm not going to go into, different frameworks of how you do pitching, etc. But whichever framework you choose, do take into account these three aspects and weave them into that, right? When it comes to kind of like do's and don'ts, just a few tips. Keep it short, keep it to the point, tell and sell the story. I always say sell the story because everything is about selling. You're always selling yourself, but you're also selling yourself going into the next step, whether it's you've sent out a pitch deck, you've gotten a meeting with an investor. How do you sell yourself into getting, a follow-up meeting, for example, right? So when it comes to that, bring them on a journey, use power words, facts, and inspirational language. And I always add into this, look at these three words: ethos, pathos, and logos, right? Ethos is the founder's credibility. So how can you weave that story of your credibility as a founder, right? pathos is like appeal to the investor's emotions. So really, really bring him on the story of like how you started this company. Maybe there's certain things in your life that happened that made you actually want to build the company that you're building, right? So add those types of emotional elements in there as well. And then logos is appeal to their logic, and logic meaning, okay, so this is all nice, but how are you going to make them, 10x back, for example, right? On their return on investment. So have that part as well in there. And once you weave those three aspects in there, you're basically good to go. Two things that basically don't show up and throw up. We've had founders that, came over, at least one of the founders that I met, he was a sales and marketing guy, had an agency, marketing agency, spoke very well. He spoke very well. He was very eloquent in his speech. And then he wanted to obviously raise funds, and he was so confident that he didn't need anybody's help, and he just wanted to get on the meetings with the investors. Okay, so we helped them get on his first meeting at least. And then once he was on that meeting, he actually started talking and talking and talking for 5 to 7 minutes. And then basically after that, the investor was a little bit taken aback, and the conversation just went basically south, and he didn't get that opportunity anymore to go to the next step. So basically the lesson here is, even though you're very confident, also don't show up and throw up. Even if you're nervous, just stick to these points of 1 minute elevator pitch with these elements in there, and then have just a conversation, right, and why this is important to them. And don't save the best for last. So think of this as newspaper headlines. And what I mean to say is sometimes founders are, depending on also cultural differences, sometimes you have founders that in certain cultures don't want to really portray their the awards maybe that they've won, or that they have like great partnerships with certain companies. And in this case, I always say, like, you don't have to brag, but do weave this into kind of like the story when you first speak with an investor, because that's obviously something that's a big thing to show, right? So for example, that the Swedish company that I mentioned that has partnerships with Gartner and Microsoft, those are the things that I tell them you need to definitely showcase this, because these are big companies, right? And it shows credibility as you as the founder as well, and it shows credibility to the company of your company, because these bigger companies like Gartner and Microsoft are not going to just work with any company. So also showcase that part as well. And I think that is it for now.
Yes.
I don't know if we have any time, Tarshan, but for the
yeah, let's do this. Let me do the next 2 slides really quickly just to round out this section, and then Denise, we can do a live deck review if someone is up for sharing.
Yeah.
And then if we have 5 minutes, we had Harness, and we actually had 6 people submit their decks for pre-submission review, and I volunteered Harness mid you talking that he's going to share some of his feedback, just because I think founder-led feedback is important as well. So yeah, let me go on to this bit, and then we'll come back for your questions, Denise, and then we can do your live. Should we do that? You can tell how prepared we are, that we are discussing the agenda in front of all you all, but yeah, we're real.
we're
guys,
flexible.
yeah, we're flexible, adaptable. Yeah, team, by the way, Denise, that was awesome. I just wanted to take a moment to remind everyone of the topics that we've covered across the last 6 weeks. And the reason for that is, spoiler alert, this is probably the foundations towards your product demo and your pitch deck that you've been working on, the story that you're saying. When 3 months ago, I think Haley and I were first thinking about, how do we do Launchpad? How would that work? The question that we were trying to answer is, if you're a SaaS founder trying to launch a business, what are the 6-7 steps that you need? And then that's how this program was basically born. Each of these speakers, each of the content is on your Enablix. It's an evergreen. So regardless of whether it's 2 years down the line, that login that you have will still be there. That content will still be there. I wanted to share, do you mind just going to the next screen, please? The next slide even. I will be looking through each one of your submissions, as well as a paddle executive and one of our partners. There's three criteria that I've instructed them to look on. And that first one is pace of growth, like showing us the traction that you've got. And the reason this is broad, and I'm not telling you about revenue growth or recurring revenue growth or anything like this, is everyone's at a different stage. So whether it's a number of customers that you've got, a number of actual users that you've got, a number of feedback sessions that you've done, like articulate and quantify those points is one of our key things that we're going to be looking out for. Which leads on to number two, learning from customers in your markets. Denise mentioned TAM Samsung. For me, SAM, service addressable market, is probably my nickname at Paddle, just because for Paddle, it's been the single most important project we've worked on our last 2 years. The world's a big place, but who do you prioritize for the next 12, 18 months is key for your investments, for your growth, your strategies. And that doesn't matter whether you're a SaaS founder looking to make your first dollar or whether you're a unicorn like Paddle who's trying to scale now. And then the final one is that pricing structure and growth opportunities. I can tell from Enablex that Patrick's pricing session is the most viewed session of the recordings that we've put up so far. There's a good reason why, right? Like, how do you price? I forgot who someone mentioned, or someone asked the question, should we do lifetime subscriptions or one-off lifetime subscription? The answer is no. Like, try and keep your subscription going, try and make them recurring payments, all of this stuff. Make sure you've articulated these growth strategies into your deck. And then the final one, just as a reminder, next slide, please. Yeah, so imagine this session is done. The deadline is end of day, 9th of November. I'm going to be fully transparent with you. I'm going to be on a flight on Sunday. My ideal flight activity is to start working through the submissions that we've got before I then share it with our execs and all this stuff. End of day, 9th of November. Ideally on Friday, I've got a full list, but if you need an extra day, just message me. I'm not a monster. I will be flexible. I understand life happens. But the things that we're looking out for specifically is the copy of your pitch deck, a copy or a recording of your product demo. And if you are entering yourselves for the main $25,000 cash prize, making sure that you're implemented or on the journey of implementing Paddle is the key criteria that we've got. We've already had submissions come through, so I'm super excited to work through these. And I will now stop there. The final slide, Denise, let's save to the end or not.
I was too quick.
Yeah, you're too quick. Okay, I just wanted to give everyone a shout out, and I'll do this at the end, and I promise it won't be like an Oscar speech where I'm crying or anything like that. But yeah, we basically had 200 applications to join this program, and originally it was only meant to be 30 places. And then my manager was like, go on, do more. Go on. Are you really going to reject someone just because of X or Y or Z? So we've had 59 launch paddlers. You guys are representing 21 different countries, which for me is nuts. Like, as someone who is Asian but French but English, like the international part of me is like really proud of what we've been able to achieve. 12 amazing partners, including Denise, who've helped deliver these sessions and just even bring this to life. And you guys, like, in 6 weeks, you've gone from wherever you were to wherever you are now. Most of you have already started transacting, which is nuts to me. So yeah, I'm super excited. We'll be doing like feedback sessions and all this stuff. I'll be sliding into your Slack DMs and your emails or whatever way to get you on a call. And just as a heads up, we will be doing this new series that I mentioned on our Slack a couple of weeks ago. And your founder stories are the kind of stories that we'd love to cover. So there's a lot more things that we want to be doing with you moving forward. So that was really emotional. I'm going to take a minute to recover while someone volunteers themselves to work with Denise on their deck.
Any volunteers?
I'll go.
Perfect. Do I say Ola Bode? Is that the right pronunciation?
Yeah, that's the right sequence of syllables. But you can call me Ola. Ola is fine.
Okay, Ola.
Please be gentle. There are still parts of this that I'm working out. So I'm just trying to move stuff around because for some reason Keynote wants to take over my entire screen.
Tarshana, how many minutes do we have, by the way? 15? Something like that?
Yeah, let's do 15 and then harness for the final 5 to bring us home.
Okay, got it.
All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
What do you see? I'm sure you see Keynote.
I see I think a page which says, let's build the HQ of the future together.
Yes, okay. That should be it. So we start here. All right. So this is, this is like opening page. So here, the work communication tools that we currently use. So one of the things I like to say to most people is that Slack is built like a social network. And that will be underscored by the next slide. This is an actual, the next slide here basically talks about like, a lot of the features of Slack, again, like I said before, built like a communication tool. It's a lot of notifications. It's a lot of apps that are not really apps. You can't really do anything, there's a lot of information overload. And if you ever try to search for stuff on Slack, good luck to you. That's an extreme sport. This is an actual quote from somebody who is a COO of like a 200-person company, and he was like, Slack gives me anxiety. I used to work for TransferWise, and during our onboarding session as an engineer, somebody asked the CEO, "Oh, what would you say to somebody who was asking like how to be successful at TransferWise?" And his response was, "Stay off Slack." Now, one of the things that we're trying to build here is, what if Slack is your communication tool for work? I'm using Slack because it's the most popular one among startups, but what if your communication tool for work wasn't just a place where you just talk and talk and talk and talk, right? But a place where it actually actively helps you get work done. So what we've basically done is that we strongly believe that the modality for putting all of the advances that are happening in artificial intelligence right now to work in the enterprise, for people to actually use them for their work and make them bionic, is to actually put them in the conversation tool. We've tried several other form factors, hasn't worked as well. This is the one that we've seen work quite well, and we've actually, spoken to customers about this, and they're pretty excited about it. So basically, one of the interesting things that we're trying to do is like, one of the first things is we're trying to embed a language model right inside the conversation tool, which means that it can work offline. You don't need to go to ChatGPT. Obviously, we're going to have like, ChatGPT based features as well, but you have a language model that works offline, and that works for two things. Number one, and I'm going to go to another slide that sort of talks about the key insight and one of the reasons why we're doing this. So a bias towards action. We actually have one customer right now who uses, again, another smaller version of our product, where they use it for their backend as their admin panel. So they can say, hey, I need you to credit this customer with X amount, and it just does it. Hey, I need you to do this, it just does it. And want to add more of that into the communication tool, where you can say, hey, how many transactions happened yesterday? And then you get a response, and you can say, okay, you know what? Take that, put it into Notion for me. And that all of that happens as well. You can take action. You can also focus. This has been a really big one that a lot of people have responded to. I spoke to a guy who sold this company for just under $1 billion in San Francisco like 2 weeks ago. And when I pitched this to him, one of the first things he said was, hey, I used to be the head of like a really, really large company. And one of the things you're pitching to me here that I really like is that I get to see signal. I want to see signal, and I want to see signal quick. And as Slack sort of blows up, I don't see enough signal. Another example I'll give you was, I spoke to someone from Chainalysis, and he said something. He was like, hey, every 6 months, somebody does something that somebody did 6 months ago. It'd be nice if, they have something. So we came up with a feature here where, hey, we can integrate into your sort of project management tool, and instantly when you're assigned a task, it knows what task you're assigned, and it goes into Slack and says, hey, you should talk to Tesha, and you should talk to Denise because they've spoken about, such and such before. Puts all of that on your side panel and takes everything else away. So you can actually actively focus. And then gives you a zeitgeist at the top where it sort of tells you about all the other things that are happening in the company. Because again, I used to work for a 3,000-person company. At some point, 90% of the conversations you see have nothing to do with you. It'd be nice to be able to find signal really quickly. One of the other things that we're, and this is sort of a bigger vision, is we want to be able to combine human beings and artificial intelligence in the same conversation. So you have human beings doing the human being things, and you want to have artificial intelligence doing the artificial intelligence things. So you basically have human colleagues and you have AI colleagues.
Can I ask you just a quick question, Ola, because I'm just also conscious of time. When it comes to kind of like your USP and your selling, your value proposition, right? How would you say it in one sentence? What that would be?
Slack that keeps, well, clearly there are variations of this, but it's Slack that keeps you in flow. For instance, or communication tool that keeps you in flow. That doesn't distract you. That's one thing, but that's the core thing, which is like a communication tool that doesn't distract you and it helps you do your work. As opposed to just a place for you to talk and talk.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So you guys basically, compared to, let's say, these other tools, you guys have a way to help, let's say, people focus on what they have to do and not distract them, right? Are there other
Yes.
things that you believe are, a differentiation factor?
Other than, so the other thing, like I said, is also being able to, so the second piece around helping you do your work is also a big differentiation factor. There's a reason why we talked about embedding artificial intelligence inside of the tool, where instead of going to some other third-party system to do things, you can just instruct an AI to do something, and it does it for you, right
Got
inside
it.
the tool without having to leave it.
So automating that part as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the problem statement would be something around the sense of a lot of people get distracted by, many messages on Slack, right? Making them not do their work well, but then you have the solution basically saying like, we have this solution where things are automated, or let's say certain processes are automated, and where you can actually save time on X or something like that, right? So you can say, you can think of it like that, just to keep it very simple. I'm just putting just an example out here. You can think about it further, but have a thought about, okay, what's the simplicity that you're really doing? Not going too much into kind of like the technicalities, but what's like the simplicity that you're doing. What I'm seeing here is you're really helping, because I use Slack as well, so I know that it's very distracting. But if you tell me like, hey, this is the tool where I can automate certain, let's say, messages, or automate certain let's say, flows. And I can really focus on the things that I need to do, which is whatever, be with the team, develop the solution, do sales and marketing, something like that. That's where I think you could really, move the needle also in explaining this. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes perfect sense. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. The next bit I wanted to sort of ask you about, though, was this particular slide, which is also a big differentiation factor, and I'll tell you why. But this is one part I'm still racking my brain about how to sort of merge it in. So I have a slide that says CPUs are getting better at AI. A lot of what, I'll give you the broad strokes. A lot of what people are excited about AI right now is cloud-based AI. Problem is, number one, it's expensive. The point blank period, is expensive. It's expensive to do. But one of the things that's quiet that nobody's actually talking about is the fact that right now, as I'm speaking to you, I'm running a language model on my computer. And what that simply means for companies is that, I don't know if you guys saw the OpenAI thing yesterday, where they talked about having various GPTs, right? The problem with those GPTs is like, they're really good. So you can basically create, let me give you a classic example. You can create like an onboarding bot. I'll use Wise as an example again. If you create an onboarding bot that anybody who's a newbie in a company can ask questions, where do I find this, where do I find this? And that, that gets solved for you. If you use an OpenAI GPT for that, you're going to pay every single time you talk to that particular bot. But in our particular case, we're embedding something where you can actually download those GPTs to and just run it on your computer, which means the inference cost goes to zero.
Yeah.
Essentially, which is also a big one, especially for enterprises, because one of the biggest blockers with adopting AI right now is just the sheer cost of doing it. But how to weave that in is like, still breaks my brain a bit.
So weave that into this slide, right?
So I just dumped in a bunch of stuff, and hopefully I'll figure it out somewhere.
If that's a question to me, then I can answer it very simply. I would need to know a little bit more on what exactly everything does, and then I can actually give the added value. But always think of it as, okay, what's actually the problem that other people are seeing from their perspective, and how can I actually solve that problem very easily, right? Because we always think in our mindset, okay, this is the problem, but other people don't understand that problem because they're maybe not in the same field, same industry, so try to, whenever you have kind of like, okay, how to weave things in, try to take it from a broader perspective of like, how does like the mass market actually see this problem, and how can I communicate that in a way that they will understand, and there you can actually start implementing, what your solution could be, or what the added value is of the solution from their perspective, not from your perspective only. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess I've gotten all the value. I can stop sharing so I don't hog the mic. Is that fine, or should I carry on? Okay.
Prashant says it's good to go.
Right. So I will stop sharing.
That was awesome. No, thanks so much. And
thanks so much, Ola, for sharing, by the way.
Yeah, super brave. And also, I like the idea of dumping everything on a slide and it'll work itself out later. Spoiler alert, that's how most of this Launchpad content has been made. It's me going, These ideas make sense. They'll come to me soon. Cool.
And I can attest it's true.
Don't expose me an hour before this call. Cool. So two more topics. So Vignesh, obviously people would have seen on Slack the launch of his new project, which is super exciting. Let's get a demo of that. And then Harness will get you to close up with just some final notes, especially just highlighting the types of feedback that, again, to show people that I'm not a monster, but hopefully it was constructive and super useful.
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. I basically built a super easy and super fast presentation builder called Rijo. Yeah, I built it because I was creating many presentations for hackathons, and I was like frustrated creating presentations in like PowerPoint and Google Slides. So I thought to myself only, why not create like a presentation builder which is like super easy and super fast. So this is the product, and yeah, you can sign in with Google, and after that you will see the screen. And to create a new presentation, you just click on this create button, and it's like just an editor. Like you just put the content. Like if I'm creating like a presentation for like paddle hackathon, I will put like paddle hackathon, paddle launchpad.
Oh my God, you're replacing my job, but keep going.
Yeah, definitely. Paddle launchpad. And then for creating a new slide, I will click on this plus icon. It will add like a line like this, and it will be like next slide. And here I can just enter my contents. Like I can add H2. Like anything, it's like markdown ready. Like you can add markdown here. And also if you want to like make the content split, you just need to add this horizontal thing, and you can enter content here. And for another slide, just click on this slide, this icon. And to present it, just click on this present. And here you can see like it is been converted into presentation. And here also you can see it is been like split into two sections. And also you can easily change the themes. Like here, you can change themes, and you can also change the transition type, like here. And also you can add images here. Like I will add one. You can see like just by adding content, you created this beautiful presentation.
Yeah, that's sick. That's so good. That's so good. I wish you sent this to me two months ago, because I have just spent seven 7 weeks building decks, but we're fine. That's awesome. That's awesome. And what's your plans growth wise? Like, I know you mentioned that you've got other stuff going on as well.
Yeah, I am like thinking of like going full time on this, like marketing on like social medias, and I'm preferring to like market it by like content marketing only. Like
Do it.
as a solo indie maker, I think it will be best for me.
Do it. Awesome. And I was going to say, you've just shown it to probably 15 founders who are happening to build pitch decks. So hopefully they can give you some real feedback. I will be using it next week. So I'm going to try and use it for 3 days in a row for my different projects. And hopefully you can get layers of feedback there. But Vignesh, that's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Any questions for Vignesh before we hand over to Hannes? No, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vignesh.
So should I share your feedback, the document you
Up to you. Yeah, up to you. Like, or whether you can either share that and walk through it, or call out 2 or 3 points that you maybe, because you mentioned you've done other accelerator programs. Not that I'm offended or anything like this, but yeah, it'll be good to see the differences in feedback, that kind of stuff, just to help the other founders with their prep.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I can probably just share that. Can see the Google Doc. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we sent over the draft of the slide deck. We based it on previous slide decks and all the feedback we've gotten from various places and partners, and the current focus is on innovation culture, and really good feedback from Tarsha, and we definitely need to talk more about the market. That's kind of tricky because we haven't found out the typical time sum thing, because we see it as there's so many different types of companies that could use this. So we definitely need to iterate on that. And yeah, real good feedback about unclear about how Bulbous solution actually works. So we need to add some screenshots, actually showing the UI and functionality, go deeper into that. And we don't because we haven't publicly launched yet, we only have early access, so we don't have any concrete growth trajectory numbers, but we could speculate what we see financially or growth wise.
I think just on that one, because your deck wasn't the only one that had that same challenge, which is why I wasn't going do this, do that. One of my suggestions, having seen pitch decks in the past, is so Harness, what they did really well was have quotes from founders who've used it, or feedback or customer feedback of the types of persona. So then getting that words, those 3 lines, 4 lines, and trying to quantify that, whether it's if they paid, it would be this, and there's X amount of people that are like this persona. That's the type of quantifiable stuff that it's not some beautiful art, but it's a number that's somewhat realistic. And I think at this stage, you can bucket, and again, Denise is going to murder me, but you can probably bucket most investors in two pots. One, super ambitious, show me the shiny numbers, let's go. And the other one, which is I'm betting on the team and how pragmatic this team is and how realistic this team is of getting to the next round and then surviving and getting to the next round. So for me personally, I'm in that second bucket. So my feedback is naturally layered towards that. But that's why Harness did most of the hard work of getting the quotes there. It's just then how can we quantify those quotes? How can you be creative with that kind of stuff? That was my suggestion. So yeah.
Very good. So yeah, some of the quotes are from letter of intent that we have from some companies, and we know the number of employees at those companies, and quantify that revenue wise. Okay. Very good. Yeah, quantifiable numbers. Yeah, that's definitely something we need to add, and showcasing the product and screenshots UI wise, and maybe regarding the discussion earlier in the session, we might add some mock-ups for future versions, because we haven't added all the functionality that we want to add. So yeah, as also could show current UI and then mock-ups for future versions.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Really open. I think for me, there were, from the 6 pre-submissions that I got and worked through, the 2 or 3 things that continuously came across all 6 was the quantifiable piece. And again, I empathize, right? Don't have hundreds of customers, is why you're here, but I still feel like you need something that helps articulate that story. So what Denise mentioned of that hero point or the hero story, I love, but then it's the next layer up from that is, how do you quantify that hero? How many heroes are there that you are solving for? Number 2 is a consistency in the story from first slide to last slide. So one of the weird things that I like to do is, before I even go through it, just flip through the 8 to 10 slides and try and see if I can understand the flow without thinking too much about context. And some of them you can, right? But others, it's like, oh, I have some customer quotes here. I have some like a SWOT analysis. No, none of you did SWOT analysis, don't worry. But I've seen before people do SWOT analysis, and I'm like, okay, don't get the correlation here, that kind of stuff. And the third one, and I think this is what Harness nailed, and quite a few of you have nailed, I assume, because you've done the pricing session or whatever is, you stated your pricing today and how it can grow. And I think when I think about the pragmatic type of investor who's betting on the team, they've seen that you're thinking about your future growth. So I think those are the 3 points that I want you guys to really nail when you get your submissions in.
Yeah, like you commented on the like pricing plan page that we added to the slide. That's like for future plans. We don't
Correct.
have like all those plans.
But it was good for me to see that, right? Because I could visualize, because the natural question is, how do you make money, right? This is cool, good vibes. You're going to make creativity, like in collaboration, like into where's the business model? Is like the straight question people normally ask. And I feel like you answered that on that slide. So nailed it.
Nice. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Amazing.
I'm so conscious that we are a couple minutes over. Just any questions, whether it's to me or to Denise, before we wrap up? No. Awesome. Yeah, guys, again, thank you so much for your amazing energy over the last few months. Actually, it's been months now. Again, good luck with your submissions. Like, don't forget to do them, especially the ones who want to go for the main prizes. I want to emphasize, even if you're not on paddle, get us your deck and your demo. I will guarantee you exact level feedback. I will guarantee you partner feedback, plus my feedback, if that's worth anything to any of you guys. And as I mentioned, I'll be sliding into your DMs post Thursday, because again, I want to give you time to finish this, to get feedback. Long story short, this program has already proven to paddle that this is something that we want to do. We want to help the next generation of SaaS. So we're going to be doing future launch pads for 2024. Denise has already signed up as a partner for them. And I think there's a handful of you that I think I would love to work on, whether it's thinking about more regionalized ideas or more sector specific launch pads. But yeah, an exciting future ahead. Good luck to you all. Thank you for your energy. And yeah, there's a tear in my eye. Look at that. I'm joking. See you in a bit.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.